Good afternoon. Welcome to the Financial Express post-budget talk show. Here is a quick take on the budget, which was announced just about an hour ago. So it can only be a quick take. So thank you for joining. Joining me in this discussion is my colleague Shobhana Subramanian. Just a brief backdrop on today's budget. One is that this budget seems to have pleased everybody because she has given something for almost everybody, whether it's a middle class, which has got massive tax giveaways, even the people at the top of the tax bracket has also got something from this budget. So there is a huge, broadly she has followed the template she has been following over the last couple of years, but essentially the template is the same. But what she has done is that she has, despite these giveaways to everybody, she has also managed to increase the capex by a substantial margin. It's 10 lakh crore, and she has, apart from the capex, she has also given a lot of things on. In fact, a big shift in this budget is that from the earlier stance of a protectionist budget, remember the Arun Jaitley years when this budget increased customs duty like anything. After a gap, this budget has actually reduced customs duty on a vast number of items. So that's a rough beginning. Now, Shobhana, what is your take?
So I think most important, the Finance Minister has presented a credible budget. So the assumption is of a 10.5% nominal GDP, which is very credible. Based on that, tax collections are estimated to increase by about 11% roughly.
Right.
So that's in sync. The fiscal deficit is at 5.9%. This is in line with the stated objective that they will reduce the deficit. And, the glide path is, progressing well, and we should be able to hit 4.5% in a few years. So with these credible numbers, the Finance Minister has been able to earmark an outlay of rupees 10 trillion for capex. That is a very big increase, and of this rupees 2 trillion is for railways. So in addition to this, the Finance Minister will continue to support the states in their capex objectives. We must remember that actually the states spend much more than the center. So
Right.
It was very important that the Finance Minister continues to support the states in the capex spends. So it is very, very good that the Finance Minister has continued. But I think we should talk about what is the highlight of this budget, which is the exemption limit being raised in the new tax regime. So do you think, this will encourage or incentivize, more taxpayers to shift?
I think yes, of course. I mean, one of the problem why people did not move to the new tax regime was, at the end of the day, they didn't know whether they will give up the exemptions, whether there is a proper trade-off. This time, she has taken, I would say, a big leap forward by, making 7 lakh rupees, and that's a pass-through, which means everybody will benefit from that. Plus, if you look at the tax brackets, you can assume generally that people in that 15% tax bracket might find it attractive to shift to this new regime. So in many ways, we are all set for a new tax regime in India, and I think the shift will be quite substantial this time.
I think yes, that is true. So, the corporate sector should be happy because, inflation has eaten into the disposable incomes of
Yeah.
households. And at least, consumer durables, consumer staples, I think households will have a lot of money in their pocket. And that's very important because we've been seeing a fall in the savings of households. So I think to that extent, this will be, a very, very important, catalyst as far as consumption spends are concerned.
Yeah. Before we come down to the fiscal thing, let us, one of the main highlights of this budget, thankfully, is the MSMEs. I mean, the government's focus has always been on MSMEs. But this time, I think the fact that there was a huge distress in the MSME segment, it's something which the government realizes that some corrective action needed to be taken. After all, MSMEs, account for 30% of the economy. So, and apart from the employment potential, etc. So this time, if you look at the budget, apart from whatever relief she has given, they have done a huge thing on, the ease of doing business. The Jan Viswas bill which is coming, the decriminalizing, reducing the number of clearances. Then this revamped credit guarantee scheme, which is about 9,000 crore corpus. And then additional collateral-free loans. I think she has managed to do which nobody thought she can do, because there has been no new imposts as such. But at the same time, as you said, the numbers seem to be credible, and she's done a grand job. So, coming down to the fiscal consolidation thing, the fact that she has managed to bring it down to 5.9%, which is well within the glide path that they had talked about. What would be the impact on, because a lot of people would like to know on the interest cost. So, on the market borrowings thing, what is your sense?
So, in terms of market borrowings, I think the gross borrowing is a little over 15 trillion, which is what the market was expecting. The bond markets were expecting anywhere between 15.5 and 16, the gross number. And the gross number matters because there are a lot of exceptions this year. So I think the net is a little over 11.2, and the finance minister said in her speech that the rest will come from the NSS funds. So I think, I think the rate cycle is coming to an end. The hiking cycle, maybe one last hike of 25 bips next week. And I think this will really cheer companies, because they won't be crowded out. Interest rates won't go up. And it's not only companies. Actually, EMIs have been going up, as you know, because most of the rate hikes are, benchmarked to the the repo or any other rate. So I think the fact that the finance minister has not quote unquote over borrowed, I think is very important, and I think the markets are missing that. The equity markets, the Sensex has come off from the highs, but I think this is very, very important, and we shouldn't disregard this. The fact that's another reason also which makes the budget very credible. And the interest cost is already, as we know, 25% of the total expenses.
Right.
So if now, interest rates are reined in because the borrowing number is not so high, for the government too, it will be a lower cost of borrowing.
Yeah. The only quibble that some people may have on this budget is, while it sounds good that she has catered to taking care of different interest segments, the big picture somehow seems to be missing. It is still looks like a nuts and bolts budget. She hasn't done any harm, so that itself is good news for markets. But maybe some factor market reforms. This budget seems to be missing on going beyond the giveaways. Is there any big picture? Meaning, I couldn't figure out what is it.
Maybe the finance minister didn't say so, but in the last 2 or 3 budgets, you've seen schemes being announced, even outside of the budget, say Gati Shakti or asset monetization. I think it's a 6 trillion target, if memory serves me right. So I think it's a process of consolidation. I don't think every year you can expect a very big bang scheme. The government is working on roads. We know that roads has is the biggest success story of this government.
Yeah.
And I think, it's a process of consolidation. In fact, in the 7 points of the Saptarishi, infrastructure is one of the points. Capex, it's a second point on that list.
Yeah.
And I think, the fact that the capex budget itself is so high at 10 trillion, I think, we should just let the government consolidate the earlier schemes, like the PLI. Now, the PLI has been announced for a dozen sectors. The allocations are known. Now, they just need to be fine-tuned if there are some problems and the nitty-gritties need to be sorted out. I think if you're looking at a big picture, even status quo is not bad at a time when the global economy is so weak. I think sometimes it is just good to continue with what one has begun and do it well or better.
Yeah, you have a point. But, on this, to make this PLI scheme a success, I would say, and it applies to some of the MSMEs as well. Success, the point one is you give this subsidy. The other is this ease of doing business. So that is where I think a lot of this investment, somebody was saying on television, I heard, that whether this government is for investment or against investment is not very clear, because the old problems of, look at, for example, if a company has to invest here, look at the power tariffs. If you compare it, looking at this figure, the industrial tariffs is 9 to 11 per unit, which is almost double that of China. So I think the government needs to look at it, but it may not be strictly within the budget scope of the budget. But some intent from her on this score would have been perhaps good.
Yes, that is true. But they have started the process of decriminalization.
Yes.
That is a very good step. But yes, you need so many permissions to set up a unit. So yes, but that can be done, like you said, outside of the budget.
Yeah.
I think, as a pure statement of the government's revenue and expenditure, and the market borrowings, which is essentially what a budget is, I think there is a lot to be cheerful about. There's no overestimation and there doesn't seem to be any underestimation either. It's, it's a really good fiscal math. It's good marksmanship. It is very good, what should I say, budgeting. And that I think the markets and the corporate sector should derive confidence from this fact that, at a time when other economies are so fragile, our economy is very well in fine fettle actually. And that I think it's very important to take note of these things also. We tend to take it for granted sometimes.
Yes. No, when we began the show, we did say that it's a please all budget. Everyone should be happy. No one should have any complaint about it. Perhaps, as I said, a little bit of big picture was missing. But that's all right. I think at the end of the day, she has delivered a budget which no one can complain about. Thank you.
Thank you.